What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Moments with the Marcelins. My name is Jun.
And my name is Stephanie.
And we are the Marcelins. Our moments together will be centered around three things: transparency, tools, and truth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you are listening through our podcast, please make sure to rate and leave us a review. But if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, like, and also share a comment on your thoughts on today's episode. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So today I kind of wanted to just kind of have a conversation about waiting, you know, and first I just want to see, like, how are you doing? How's the pregnancy going for those who've been asking, and some of our listeners and our supporters. And so Kobe wants to chime in and just kind of talk about this journey and what that's been for him. But for you, how has this journey been for you? How far along are you?
So I am 23 weeks this week, which is like you're hitting almost at like that 6-month mark now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, time is flying, honestly. And I feel like what once was like a thought or like a desire or like something you prayed for it to like begin to evolve and like take place. And this can be for like anything in your life. Like it's still kind of surreal, and I feel like I said that when we first shared it. But it's still very surreal. You know, we don't have doctor's appointments and sonograms, and we got to see her, and we were like, oh my God. And I'm like super emotional. So I'm like crying, like watching her move and all this kind of stuff. And you know what I mean? It's just a beautiful experience. And thankfully my pregnancy has been pretty good. Now I feel like the whole sleeping and like acid reflux is like annoying. But aside from that, on a day-to-day basis, like I'm pretty good. But it's just kind of like that, you know, anticipation of like waiting for something and like, you know, waiting for her and like kind of like preparing for what you've been expecting now for some time. How's it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, this journey it's been an interesting one. It's been also surreal for me as well. I'm gonna be honest, like sometimes I'm like I guess since she's not here physically yet, I'm like, wow, like it doesn't seem like you're pregnant sometimes. I know that sounds way off, and like I have had those moments like, oh, this is real, like when we went to get the sonograms. You know, I was like, okay, this is actually happening. But you know, it has been a pretty great experience thus far. You haven't had all the horrible things that people say were gonna happen to you. Thank God for that. We don't want that to happen. But I think one of the moments where, like I stated before, where it was surreal was when we were getting the sonogram for her. And in one of the days in particular, we went to get the sonogram, and she was just chilling in the belly. Like, when I tell y'all chilling, both hands behind her head, legs crossed like she was at the beach or something, smiling. So cute. The nurse, I guess, is that
the radiology technician.
The radiology technician was so like, oh my gosh, like I've never seen this before, that she gave us like extra pictures, you know? And so I'm just looking at her, I'm like, wow, like she's already a little bundle of joy and relaxing. And I'm like, man, I cannot wait to meet her. You know, it's like this upcoming weekend, you're going to be 5 months.
6 months.
6 months. Wow. 6 months. Wow. It's hitting me, y'all. It's hitting me, y'all. And so, wow, like Lord willing, in about 3 months, she will be here. And it's just like, man, I cannot wait to meet her, see who she looks like, her personality traits, and all of that. And it's like, while we're waiting, we're still also getting everything ready. You know, like we want to buy a home, make sure she has all the nicest clothes, shoes. I'm already buying so many shoes, and like, you know, we've already started her baby registry. And so hit the link in the bio if you feel led to bless a little baby girl. And so we're doing all these things, and we're preparing all these things. And it made me think, like, there's so much that we are waiting on. Like, we're waiting on a baby, right? And we're in anticipation, and we're in expectation, and we cannot wait to meet her, you know. But there's also some things that God has birthed, dreams that God has planted inside each and every one of us that we are waiting on right now, and we're anticipating, and we're like, you know what? I want to see these things take place.
Yeah. And one of the crazy things is like when it comes to waiting, like no one really likes the waiting season. I know I don't. For her, I can wait because I'm like, hold on, I need to get ready, like for sure. But for other things in life, I think, like in all honesty, waiting isn't fun. Like waiting isn't something that you like sign up for. Like, yeah, I'm gonna, go ahead and wait for this too, or whatever. And then sometimes you feel like you waiting for something. It's like your time is also wasting away, And one thing that I remember listening to was that, your waiting season isn't a wasted season.
It's good.
Because there's preparation that goes along with that. Like right now, like, you're preparing a baby registry, you're preparing, you and your skills and your ability and like, your life and your health or whatever the case is. And it's like all of these things are going to contribute to what you have been waiting for. And so your waiting season isn't wasted, And I just hope to, kind of remind somebody of that today that feels like, things aren't going to open up, like things aren't going to change, and kind of speaking to ourselves too, because, we're also in this waiting season aside from just a baby. Like, we also have things in our heart that we're like, all right, God, like, do you, like, we're here waiting on you, we're here trusting you. And sometimes you don't feel like things are moving, or things are shifting, or things are, opening up. And sometimes it's like our time of that, the time that we've set for certain things to be done, sometimes that time, it didn't happen within that time.
Right. Right.
But then it's kind of like, God knows when.
Yeah.
God knows how. And it's not going to be like we've thought, or how we thought, or when we thought. But he's always on time, Like in all of that mystery, he's still always there, and he knows. It's not like if he doesn't. It's not like he's oblivious to it, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So this whole waiting, season is something like that's very dear to our heart, because
we're living it.
We're living it not only like with baby, but like, which is other things in life. And so like, we feel you when sometimes you feel like, when everything's just gonna happen, like, and like you're moving, and it's not like if you're not sitting there doing anything, like, you're doing your part, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but yet still things don't move. That's when you become kind of like, you can be a little bit discouraged,
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, we both had the opportunity to speak at a ministry. And so I was speaking to the leadership team, and, one of the leaders raised their hand and was like, what do you do in the waiting season? Like, what do you do? And I was like, man, it's so funny that you asked that question, because I'm in that season right now where it's like, I'm waiting, and it's like, sometimes like, it's easy to get a yes from God. And even though it may not be what you want, it's even more easy to get a no from God. Yeah. But that in between, where you're just waiting sometimes on an answer, waiting on a response from God, it seems like it takes eternity.
Yeah.
And it's like, or, God has promised something over your life, and you're like, I cannot wait to see this happen. And everything is happening, and you're seeing other people, getting blessed per se, or you see things happening and producing in the lives of others, and you're happy.
Or even in other areas of your life, like things are happening, but one area is like stagnant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever been, succeeding in one area of your life and in the other area? It's kind of like school sometimes, where, you're acing all your quizzes and your tests in this particular class, but in this other class, you're failing miserably. And that's how life is sometimes. It's like, you're doing great in one particular area of your life, but in the other, you're like, oh my goodness, I need help. And so I just want to encourage you to just wait. And God's timing is best. Like, I know it can kind of come off cliche, like, oh man, that's easy for you to say, but when I tell you that we're literally living that right now, but we're learning to just trust God and trust his plan. Like I always harken back to Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, he will direct your paths, and trust him with all your heart, with all your even when you don't completely understand. Because one thing that I've noticed with God is that, like, how he puts things together, how he puzzles things together, it makes no sense.
It does not.
It makes no sense. Like, I don't care who you are. You can be the holiest saint of all. Like, it makes no sense at first. But on the other end of it, you're like, you know what? Man, I understand why I had to go. I had to go through that in order to learn. I had to go through that in order to grow. And so I just want to encourage you all to just wait. In your waiting season, it doesn't mean literally sitting idle and not doing anything, but while you wait, you're serving. While you wait, you're doing everything that you need to prepare. So when that opportunity comes, you can succeed at what you do. Because sometimes it's like you want something, but if you're not going to put in the work, if you're not going to prepare for it, don't.
Yeah, then when it does come, you may not even be ready for what actually just came, what actually just landed in your lap, because you haven't done that part, your own part to succeed. And so don't be mad if you don't execute because of lack of preparation. And so,
what are some other things that you think is difficult or challenging about waiting for people?
I mean, at least maybe for me, it just kind of like you had touched on it, just like the unknowns, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like a lot of the times with the unknowns, we don't fill them with positives. Sometimes, because of how we've been wired in life and experiences, we tend to fill those unknowns with negative. So you're like, wow, like that's really not going to happen, or I guess I didn't do it right, or I guess I, bombed that interview, or whatever the case is, and so, within all of that, I feel like because of the unknowns, and then some of us have a tendency to try to be in control of more things than others. And again, it's just more of a personality thing. So, when it comes to that, it's like, I have no control over this, or you know what I mean, over the outcome of the situation. I have control over what I contribute, but not everything. And then aside from that is like battling that's like, God, I really even give you I let go of the control that I feel like I need to have, over this circumstance. And that's, at least in my life, I feel like that's some of the things that I wrestle with when it comes to the waiting. Yeah. It's just like what I feel like I need to control, and then, certain outcomes that, they're not going to, like, I can't, my hand isn't in that per se. Like, he's the decider. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's good. I think for me, as we're going to wrap up, because you touched on the unknown and the fear, and then the control or the illusion of control that we think we have. I think sometimes what reflects on me while I wait is, man, like, did I do something incorrectly? Is that the reason why I'm waiting? Am I being punished? Like, am I being punished for something, and this is why this is prolonged? When I was single, am I being punished for how I lived my life, earlier on, because I got married at 28. Like, am I being punished for actions, and it's always like seeing God through that filter of like punisher, and a lot of my upbringing had to do with that. And so I know that there's some people out there, it probably hasn't happened for you yet, and you're probably thinking maybe you're being punished for something. And I just want to encourage you to have those conversations with God and wrestle and ask those tough questions. Right now I'm reading a book titled The Cry of the Soul, and it's basically talking about how to wrestle with God and ask God the toughest questions. And he's not intimidated by any of those things, and so we need to learn to be brutally honest. I think we're not angry enough, and so we suppress our feelings, we suppress how we feel and what we want to say, because we think that God can't handle it, and we're bad for thinking those things when he already knows how we feel and what we think anyways. And so we need to be brutally honest, like, God, why is this taking so long? Why is there so many injustices taking place? And that's something else that I'm waiting for, like sometimes justice to take place. God, if you're such a just God and you're such a good God, why are you allowing all of these injustices and things like that to take place? And so I wrestle with God and I have these conversations. And so I want to encourage you to just wait on God, wait on what he has.
Yeah. When you touched on and what you said earlier, because I just want you to like elaborate on that a little bit. You said that sometimes we're not angry enough. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I'm still learning about it while I'm reading, but the author, he points out that oftentimes, we're not real with our emotions in our meditations and things like that. And so we almost feel guilty for feeling a way. Therefore, we don't deal with those emotions and we suppress it because, you know, in certain cultures and Christian cultures, that if I feel that way, that's of the devil.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
it's
saying?
a sin.
It's a sin to feel that way, or like this is not Christ-like. But then they take you through all these psalms and all these imprecatory prayers where literally David, a man after God's own heart, is praying for his enemies to be killed, praying for them not to have children, for their children to be cursed. This was a guy that was after God's own heart. And so he's having this open diary for us to read. And so I'm like, man, like there's something that we can learn if we just tap into that. And so, and just other psalmists and how they're waiting on God to bring judgment upon these people that are, you know, oppressing and doing all these things. Kind of like what we're seeing modern day right now, where you're seeing all this oppression and things like that. And you see what's happening in Haiti, you see what's happening in Afghanistan and in all these different places. And it's like, God, like we're waiting for you to do something. Yeah. And so, you know, we got to be angry. Like we got to be agitated. It's okay. It's okay to do that. But I close out with one last verse, and it's found in Psalms chapter number 27, verses 13 and 14. And this is a psalm of David. He says, I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong. Take heart and wait for the Lord.
Amen.
So whatever season you're in right now, whether you're waiting for, you know, that significant other, where you're waiting for a job promotion, whether you're waiting to hear back from a university, whether you're waiting for God to stand on your behalf for someone who might have offended you, I just want to tell you, hold tight and wait. You know, God will take care of you. Be confident that God has your back and, you know, your best interest in need.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Moments with the Marcelins. Make sure again to subscribe, to like, to leave us a review, or to leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Is there something that you're waiting on? Is there something that you feel like, you know, it hasn't opened, but yet you feel encouraged to continue to hold on to God's promises? Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.
God bless and much love.